anyone on the fire warning, if you see a blue turban running, you just follow him. So you don't need to know where the exits are. Just to kind of do one better than Romana there. Thank you for attending my conference, and thank you for inviting me over. I'm really excited, and is that, go back? Excuse me? Right, if I may. So, has anyone here heard of Prezi? Prezi? Okay, so not many people have. You can get a bit dizzy. Don't fall off your chair. Just look away and then look back. I think it really helps me tell a story. I don't try to kill people with PowerPoint. And I need to say allow. This presentation is now available. Anybody who has an iPad or a laptop can actually look at this right now by going to prezi.com/user/my first name and last name. The B is missing there. Is there a reason why the B is missing, or? We'll carry on and they'll fix it. So the title there is Bring All Your Devices, and the reason I'm calling BYOD is dead is because I don't think it's anymore about one device, in my humble opinion. It's still the bring your device, but I'm saying it's bring all your devices. People are already doing that. News International, where I worked, was a very dynamic organization. It still is a very dynamic organization. And it has a lot of new, young people joining. And one device, as Romana was, even my son has a phone, which he shouldn't have, but his mother convinced me to get him one. And my old iPad, my old iMac, and he wants the the Samsung smartwatch, which he's not going to get because it's got to be an Apple smartwatch. So what I normally do is I normally share, while I'm creating a presentation, I normally share some of other titles that I thought of. And I found this in Mary Meeker. Everyone know of Mary Meeker? If you do write it down, Mary Meeker. She does a yearly presentation, very informative, very, very informative. It's about 120 slides, longest presentation I've ever seen, but it actually is very, very informative. Mary Meeker. I've stolen some of her slides from there. But, I mean, this just says it all. These are some of the titles I was thinking about. I was at a CISO conference and someone said, everything is fine, we have a policy, and everyone has read it. Who here reads policies? I'm not going to put my hand up. Okay, well, not many of us. I don't read my own policies sometimes, to be really honest with you. Right. I mean, I write policies, but I don't end up reading them. I'll be honest with you. So we can't expect all our employees to read the policies. But this is the problem that I see a lot of the time. Policy is there, everything is going to be fine. I don't agree. That's another one title that I thought of, new mobile device policy, and you just ban everything. Soon you may have to ban people wearing their, goggles or Googles or whatever they are. Does everyone know that there is already a wristband that you can get that records 1 or 2 minutes of continuous audio, right? And it's a really tiny one. It's already available widely, and a few minutes of continuous recording. So there's no stopping and owning. It just keeps recording. Anyway, very quickly. And we love marketing, folks. BYOD must have been generated by a good old marketing genius somewhere. I like this. Should be bring all your devices. Because everyone is bringing all their devices. I'm bringing all my devices to where I work. I now work as a global interim CISO at another organization. Something to do with food. And this is just a bit about me. I'm chair of Isaca. I don't know why they call it Security Advisory Group, because if you say SAG, it doesn't sound nice. I would rather call it Security Task Force, but Isaca doesn't seem to agree yet. So maybe when they agree, I'll call it Security Task Force. Obviously, this is my personal views only, and we'll move on to the main, my presentation here is to encourage people to think a bit differently. Interestingly, from Mary Meeker's presentation and my own experience, Dubai, UAE, Asia are quite far ahead in some mobile concepts. Africa has whole mobile payment issues, development, but Dubai and Asia, quite a lot of Asia, UAE, is quite far ahead in many different things. In fact, the West is quite, in many cases, behind. And just encouraging everyone to think a bit differently. What I'm going to do is quickly give you an overview. I'm not anti or pro mobile. This is a neutral view, but it's never really neutral because I have some views that I'm going to share. We all love stats and figures. I'm going to go straight in. There are 1.5 billion smartphones. I'm not going to ask, I think it's a really stupid question, but everyone here has a mobile, correct? Everyone. Who doesn't have a mobile can put his hand up. Right, no, here, but he isn't here. Everyone here has a mobile. So I'm not, everyone here has a tablet? Most everyone, right? Now, interestingly, there are 5 billion phones, so there still is a huge growth potential for smartphones. Those were 1.5 billion smartphones. And to be honest with you, sometimes I feel the need to have more than one smartphone myself. I'm trying to resist because my wife doesn't agree. The tablet, this is really interesting, again from Mary Meeker. Officially, in Q4, tablets outsold all PCs and desktops in the US. Wearables, scannables, flyables. Anyone played with the the helicopter drones that you get? Anyone? They're really cool. They have their own IP address. You can update firmware, right? Most modern Audis, R8s have complete internet connectivity. But coming back to mobile, everything that you're going to wear sooner or later is going to be permanently connected to the internet. I'm going to introduce two different concepts here, and in my opinion, they're really very important. One of them is on cyberspace, obviously, but corporate cyberspace, which is what everyone here is used to working in. But the other important concept, which did not exist a few years ago, is actually very prevalent now, which is the personal cyberspace. Each one of us, I believe, has a larger footprint on the personal cyberspace than in our corporate cyberspace. And if you hold on to these concepts, they are really critical, because the BYOD, or bring all your devices world that we are moving into, this concept, I believe, is really critical. Everyone is more interested today in their personal cyberspace, and everyone has their own personal cyberspace. I'm going to talk about the risks. I'm not saying give everyone mobiles. Data theft is definitely a risk. Before I go further, and who here has a mobile management solution implemented in their organization? That's it? A few more? Right. Are you guys happy with that? Is it easy to manage? Is it quite complicated? Easy? Okay. The interesting thing is this is not necessarily replicated in the West, in London, in UK. Mobile management is seen as an operational overhead, right? You need to have many people to manage the devices, which is why I said actually Asia, UAE, and other regions are quite interestingly far into mobile device management than the West. So quite a lot of good things are being done here. Could be because you can hire people much more easily, but in the West, it is still quite an interesting operational headache. And it's not something that you can put into a normal operational function. And the complexity of the devices, every time there's a new device coming up and the CFO, the CIO brings in a new device, you have to manage that device. Data theft so everyone know what QR codes are, right? I'm not going to talk about this, but this is an interesting image I found. Do you know what that is? Where's that pointer? You can follow the Chinese embassy through the QR code. I'm not sure why they want to do that, but that's a pretty interesting way to advertise QR codes. And data theft is already happening. I investigated something to do with data was being stolen via QR codes. So it's no longer just plugging in the USB, because with your smartphones you can actually you have QR codes generators. And if you have Android, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can actually do a lot of interesting stuff. So data theft is already happening using QR codes. It's not that popular yet. It will become popular soon. Data contamination, and this is again personal space and corporate space. Does anyone here encourage people to bring in their own devices and do work on it? You don't have to put your hand up, but do you encourage your employees to do that? Or you don't allow that to happen? No? Okay. Many organizations, again, because of operational overhead, encourage or don't mind their employees to bring in their own devices. And that causes this problem of when he or she leaves the organization, are you going to delete all his or her family photos? Are you going to delete everything? This is obviously there. Again, discovery is at risk. I'm just going to touch on this. And once you find all of them, it's a very interesting headache to manage. I haven't heard of any. Has anyone heard of any employee being taken to court because of repetitive stress syndrome? Keep texting. That'll soon happen, right? Because if you keep giving your employees iPads and iPhones and Samsungs, someone is going to have a bright idea of, let me take my employee to court. It surely will happen in America very soon, right? Maybe not in Asia and here. But this is definitely something that will follow. And again, it's one of those policy questions, human resource questions. Are those being considered as part of all of these risks that will show up? The next frontier is malware. So does anyone know what security researchers is? God, trick question. Hackers. Hackers are security researchers, in my opinion. They're bad hackers and they're good hackers, right? But malware is a huge, huge threat for mobile. And the reason I'm talking about these risks is I'm going to talk about some, again, going back to my concepts about that. Now, the Cloud Security Alliance mentions a few more. Now, one of the reasons I believe why Apple has not come up with this is they haven't really truly secured this headache yet, right? Near field communication. Again, it's an interesting data leakage, data theft issue that is being used for phones that have NFC. It is already being seen out in the high-end data theft. Insufficient management tools. This is again highlighted because of the complexities of that. Now that was actually a beep. Things are always connected. And again, one of the interesting challenges that we all face with our smart devices are that they are never off the internet. And anyone know the terminology for this thing? I don't like the terminology. They call it the Internet of Things. It's always connected, basically. Your phone, without you, Apple is pushing updates without your intervention? What if it pushes a malware? I'm not saying Apple is going to do that, but what if your device manufacturer, without you saying yes, is going to push that? These are the risks. And I go back to that policy statement. The challenge is having a policy and expecting all your employees, especially the younger generation of employees who are going to join your organization, they are much more used to using the phone and the tablet. They are not going to use your corporate laptop, I'll be really honest with you, unless you give them a Mac. News International, every new employee who joined really wanted a Mac. They did not want a PC. If they didn't get a Mac, they used the iPad. Now, any organization here, anyone here kind of does a deal with their employees where they pay half, you pay half for their iPads, iPhones? Not common here. It's becoming very common in the UK and America, where to keep their employees happy, they are buying or they are agreeing to pay half, and they tell their employees to pay half for the gadget that they want. And that is actually seeing a interesting marked increase in retention because employees are happy with that. Luckily, the batteries on these mobile devices are really crap. They only last for what, 8 hours, 9 hours, 12 hours. So one of the risks, and I'm still on the risks category here, is new apps are really cool. I don't know. I think we all maybe agree. Has anyone heard of this? Everyone use LinkedIn? Please connect with me afterwards. Has anyone heard of this interesting service from LinkedIn? You have? Okay, don't tell me if you're using it, right? Please. But this is one of the most amazingly insecure, man-in-the-middle NSA wet dream come true. It's a wet dream for the National Security Agency of America. Why? They introduced this as a mobile add-on, right? And they wrote a very, oh, we love security, blah, blah, blah. I'm not attacking LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn very heavily myself. But they introduced this a few days ago, and everyone has started using it. And what it does is, it allows you to find out every information about your contact, to whoever you're sending an email. It will give you within your Apple and Samsung environment. While you're writing the email, if I send an email to, I know Manoj here, if I send an email to Manoj, it will automatically give me all his details about, from LinkedIn. Now, trust me, if you are using it, please don't, because again, if you follow me, you could have found out about that. But in a nutshell, it is one of those risks that your employees will not even tell you about, right? And this is a live example of something that has just happened. It is introduced by a very respectable firm. They have given a blog assurance that they're not going to read your email, and they're not going to retain your data. I don't know how many of you believe that, but after what's happened with PRISM and NSA, I'm not going to put my hand up saying I'm going to believe all of that. But it's a very interesting read, and this is why I'm here excited about this, because these things are going to happen more from trusted providers. LinkedIn is a trusted provider. You're not going to tell your CIO, your CFO to not use LinkedIn, right? We use LinkedIn, all of us here. I use the LinkedIn app myself. And they've done something like this, extremely insecure, and I repeat, it's a dream come true for every security intelligence service. It's just brilliant. Whoever is using it is giving everything away. And this is one of those things the policy cannot keep up with, because this is just something that you are going to install as part of LinkedIn. Now what happens if, the question is, what happens if they introduce this as part of the LinkedIn app? Are you going to stop all your employees from using the LinkedIn app? I don't know what I'm going to do, but the question is, if your employees are not aware of these kind of risks, if you don't communicate this on a personal level, there's no way, they're going to be able to understand this. Every risk, there's an opportunity, right? In my opinion. Now, this is a warning to all of those that your CFO may actually like you for this. I don't know how many CFOs like IT people. Not many, because every time you go to a CFO, he or she will say you're going to spend money, get lost. So, but this is interesting, going back to that on average in the US, there's an $80 saving when you encourage employees to go out and buy their own device. You tell them what they can buy and they buy it, or they chip in. That's a lot of money. If you have 10,000 employees, 20,000 employees. Everyone know about good technology? Sure, it's a brilliant name, right? 50% of companies with BIMOD requiring employees to cover all the costs. Here's the really interesting thing, and they're happy to do so. So, another thing to just think about, because the younger folks coming up, I'm not that old, I assure you, but the younger folks coming up are always using these devices, and they're happy to pay money from their own pocket, which is really interesting, because I don't think I would have been happy to pay for a Dell or IBM laptop when I joined. But these days, you tell them you pay for an iPad. A News International people were paying £300 for the iPad, happily. And the uptake was about 80%. 80% uptake. And my name is now Goodsing. Going back to the good technology, right? You can't get a better name than that. So I thought I'll change my name to Goodsing, maybe everyone can remember me. That was just a bit of a fun there, right? So very briefly, I'm almost done, but what I'm going to talk of, I wanted to touch, every time I talk about BYOD, I get asked to containerize or not. There's no real right answer. It depends on your risk management, but I actually like containerization if you want to have everyone use their personal mobile device. These are some of the risks of not having everyone know what containerization is? Everyone happy with that? It's basically you create a separate container within a personal device where they can work and do all their stuff. Your corporate work, yeah? So, I mean, these again, this presentation is available there, but the entire device has to be managed to protect data if you don't containerize. Anyone know about entrusting laws in Germany? If you ever want to work as a legal data privacy officer, probably avoid Germany. They have some of the most amazingly difficult laws to work with. And you cannot, it's a minefield in Germany and Europe. I'm not very sure about here in Asia, but data privacy is becoming a very important topic. If you delete my data, you as an organization can be taken to court. You cannot delete my data. You can delete your corporate data, but not my personal data. If you don't containerize and you allow your employees to work on their iPads, you will, at one point when they leave with all your secrets, you will force them to delete, and they could take you to court. Save a file. iCloud is brilliant, or not. It's on your iPad, and my son's iPad, and my wife's iPad, because everyone uses the same account, which is very irritating. Honestly, it's really irritating. You have to control the entire device if you don't containerize. So I'm not going to stay on this too long. Again, there's no encryption. Does everyone know, everyone here use Google or Salesforce? Anyone Google email, Google Docs? But for their corporate for their corporate stuff? No? Salesforce for their corporate stuff? Salesforce? Do you know that Salesforce doesn't back up? They don't back up. Sorry? Salesforce does not back up. You cannot recover your data if they lose your data. Second thing is, do you know that your data is actually not actually encrypted in Salesforce or Google? And that's the similar headache with mobile. It is encrypted, and the challenge is that it's actually encrypted, and if you have iPhones and Samsung, the new ones, if your employee decides not to give you his password, you cannot get back any data anyway, because the encryption is actually quite good. So if you don't manage that encryption and your employee is smart enough to steal all your data, you cannot recover the data. Some of them, even the most advanced forensic stuff, apart from the government, they hold a gun to your head or whatever, but it's not easy recovering the data from the mobile devices. I have tried. It's really painful. Corporate environments can know exactly you're installing, no password. And one of the things that really irritates me is, give me a second. I can't play Angry Birds. It's really irritating. If you don't have containerization, you cannot play Angry Birds or any other games, right? And containerization actually keeps the employee happy because they can still play Angry Birds. They shouldn't be playing it at work anyway, but they can still play Angry Birds while your container is still safe and secure. Again, these are quick advantages, password protected, containers, data never leaves the container. Corporate environment only has to protect the container. I'm just going to move very briefly. Could be anything, could be more different. That's not percent, that's wrong. That's my typing error. One of the challenges in UK is these kind of technologies are quite expensive. And again, I think if you look at Mary Meeker's presentation, you will see that UAE, Middle East, Asia are quite far ahead in these things compared to UK actually, and even the US. So, in my opinion, I'm going to kind of close this thing. I don't like to take too long talking, so I myself fall asleep. Personal cyberspace did not exist 5 to 10 years ago. Is accessible everywhere, anytime, and very relevant to you and me, right? Unless we are really married to our work, which one of us goes home and think, oh man, I love work, I want to go back. But we always have that phone. In fact, where's my phone? Sorry, it's in my bag. Every one of us has our phone with us almost 23 hours, 24 hours, even while we are asleep. And my son takes it to the bathroom, I don't know why. I don't. It will consist of every connected device. I know this is going a bit away from mobile, but everything is going to be internet connected. Whether we like it or not, everything will be internet connected. IPv6, everyone aware of IPv6? I'm pretty sure. Do you know that on average is it 2,000 fixed real-time IP addresses per individual on the planet? 2 to 4,000, let's say 2,000. What are you going to do with 2,000 IP addresses? I don't know, buy 100 goggles, 100 watches, but you can give each watch, each phone, a fixed real IP address. Imagine how you're going to write a policy on that. How you're going to manage that kind of a explosion in mobile devices. Moving on very quickly, I think this is an opportunity. Again, I'm kind of giving a bit of a different way to look at this, because I go back to the younger generation people that are coming into work. They don't like to be controlled too much. But what I'm saying is, if you help your employees protect their own personal space, if you give them the knowledge, that information to how they can protect their naughty photo from leaking on the internet, right? That they should not have taken anyway, but if they did, it should not leak on the internet. If you tell them why they shouldn't do, your employees will actually start respecting the corporate cyberspace. That's my experience. I'm talking of first-hand experience. Provide them the awareness to protect their bank accounts, their photos, their data. Very briefly, respondents. Again, this is taken from, I'll share. So this presentation is available online. You can look at the sources later on. Almost 75% in these countries in the emerging markets, use their own device at work. That is a very interesting statistic. Historically, the organization has always been the father of the employee, right? I think time is coming where you have to shift the concept a little and say, I trust you to a certain extent. If you breach that trust, there'll be consequences. But if you want to use whatever device, these are the policies. Talk to them. Don't expect them to read policies if we don't read policies ourselves. Share responsibility. I know legal and HR will kill me for that, right? This is just complete nightmare for HR and legal folks. And responsibility is not the same as accountability. Thank you.